Farmview with Kieran O'Connor on WLR.
Brought to you by GlanbiaConnect.com.
Hello and welcome to Farmview. Well, as usual, it's Kieran O'Connor here with your weekly farming programme, and once again I have a very busy show for you this week. And on this week's programme, with environmental challenges the biggest issue facing farmers and the agri industry, we discussed the new Teagasc Statement of Strategy 2021 to 2024, which outlines action plan to assist Irish farmers. I'll also have an update on the Ardmore farmers market, which reopened for the summer months. Plus we hear about Bord Bia's new lamb carbon footprint sustainability survey. And plus, as always, we'll have our farming calendar.
Farmview with Kieran O'Connor on WLR.
With GlanbiaConnect.com. Thousands of products in the palm of your hand.
Well, the environmental challenges are the biggest issue facing farmers and indeed the agriculture industry over the next 3 years now. The Teagasc Statement of Strategy for 2021-2024 was published last week. It reflects those challenges and outlines the actions planned. And joining us on the line is the Professor Jerry Boyle. He's the Teagasc Director, and we're delighted to have him on our programme. Jerry, welcome back to our programme.
Thanks, Kieran. Delighted to be on again.
Jerry, as I said in the intro, the environmental challenges, these are huge, and we've seen it reflected even in the CAP talks as well, but not alone for farmers, but indeed for the industry over the next 3 years.
Absolutely, Kieran. The buzzword on everyone's lips now, I think, is sustainability. It's important to explain within our strategy, when we talk about sustainability, we're talking very much about, I guess, something that has three key dimensions. At its core is economic. Farmers have to make a decent living, number one. Social sustainability is important, which that really focuses on farmers having access to education and training opportunities and the whole health and safety agenda that is critically important for farm families. And thirdly then, which a lot of people talk about exclusively when they talk about sustainability, is the environmental dimensions, which in itself is multifaceted. And I guess we would say, from our sort of understanding of the issues that are facing farmers, wrapping around that whole concept of sustainability is the requirement on farmers now, farm families, to change the way they operate many of their farm enterprises. So that's really what the strategy is about.
Mm-hmm. And I suppose, Jerry, really, earlier on people would say it's very aspirational, this whole area of sustainability. Now it's must do really at this stage, and I think farmers realise that.
That's a very important point, and as our chairman Liam Hurley is one to say to me from time to time, the referee still hasn't blown his whistle. Like farmers are no different to the rest of us. I mean, their requirement has to be spelled out as to what they have to do. At the moment, of course, you're aware that there is a very important piece of legislation going through the Oireachtas, the Climate Amendment Bill, and that has set out a target for us to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions by 51% by 2030, which is twice the level that was in the legislation that Richard Bruton brought in only 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, we expect that target will have associated instruments, if you like, you might call them, that will make sure it's implemented, and they still haven't been spelled out. But you can take it that we're dealing with a very real situation now, and certainly by the autumn, we'll have a very good idea what precisely will be the target for agriculture. Right. That's the 51% is for the economy as a whole, but obviously there's some flexibility across the sectors. And of course, Jerry, I think that's what farmers will be looking to.
And of course, Jerry, from an Irish point of view, not like the mainland Europe where they're very strong industries, the agriculture really twists or warps the percentage of the agricultural impact because of the fact that we don't have that big, heavy steel industry and other such industries.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And as you know, we export 90% of what we produce, so we're a massive player in terms of food production, simply because we do it well, we do it efficiently. And when it comes to carbon, of course, again, per unit of product produced, sort of milk or beef, we're very efficient as well. But you have to deal with the situation as we find it. The situation as we find it is that we have binding international and now national targets. The farming sector, I think, has no difficulty in standing up to the plate, certainly as far as non-biogenic methane is concerned. And Teagasc has brought forward a variety of technological solutions, such as protected urea, use of the trailing shoe methodology, use of clover to replace artificial nitrogen, and so on. The challenge, of course, as always, is to implement those measures. Right. And that's why only a couple of weeks ago, where we brought forward, and as part of our strategy indeed, what we're calling the Signpost Farm Programme, which every co-op in the country has signed up for, all the meat companies, all the farming organisations. And that's designed to implement the measures that we have set out on the basis of research. So look, I think farmers are quite capable of stepping up to the plate. I think any sector that can grow its business as the farm sector has done since April 2015 when quotas were removed, can equally turn their attention now to a different challenge. And I'd be very confident, certainly in respect of non-biogenic meat, that the targets can be delivered. And that's Jerry, what our strategy is all about.
And at the Open Day, I just spoke to you before we came on air in Moore Park there 2 or 3 years ago when he saw it firsthand, and farmers saw it for the first time, the whole area of the trailing shoe, as you mentioned, the protected urea. And now you have establishing a National Agricultural Sustainability Research Centre in Johnstown Castle. But I think the signpost farms are crucial here, because here in Waterford we're very lucky. We've Stephen Fitzgerald in Eglish, we've Shane Fitzgerald in Portlaw. Guys seeing it firsthand, farmers doing best practice and doing it very well, be it from greenhouse gas emissions, water quality and farm biodiversity, all these three plank areas. So farmers, while it's good to have the institute and coming up with research and innovation, I think it's so important to have active working farmers doing best practice and showing how well it can work.
Kieran, you're absolutely right, and it's something we've learned a long time ago. If we want to get messages out to farmers, the best way to do it is to use other farmers who have taken up the technologies. They can give it to their fellow farmers straight up. There's no new technology that's not without its challenges, and farmers want to know that, and they want to learn from others, and that's at the core of the whole Signpost Farm Programme. We're going to have over 100, an unprecedented number, 100 demonstration farms right across the country, all implementing different aspects of technologies that will improve greenhouse gas emissions. Will also, of course, and this is the important point to understand, that will also improve water quality, and it will at the same time improve biodiversity. But we're also very clear that farmers have to make money at the end of the day and have to generate a living for themselves and their families, and that should never be forgotten when we talk about sustainability.
And of course, really, and last week when we discussed the Common Agricultural Policy on our programme, people want farmers to do more, literally, to get less. But I think farmers realise this is such an important area of farming now. It's the key one for the next few years. So you within Teagasc and the advisory services are there to handhold as such through these open farms and also through the advisors. And I was delighted to see that Dr. Seamus Carney here from Waterford and Siobhan Kavanagh are very much to the forefront of your new signpost strategy.
No, and thanks for mentioning both Siobhan and Seamus. Obviously, they at one level they're going to be a loss to the Waterford region, and
huge.
Put in a fantastic shift over the years. But they will now be operating on a national scale, and I think they're going to bring fantastic expertise and commitment to what is a national challenge. And Kieran, it's not just a challenge for the next 3 years. I mean, we all understand that this whole issue around sustainability, in particular climate change, is going to be here for generations to come, and that's something farmers very much understand. They want to leave the land in a better condition for the next generation and generations after that. They don't have to be lectured by anyone as to the importance of that. What they do need is clarity in relation to what they have to do, and they also want to identify what are the least cost ways of delivering on these very demanding targets.
Right. Jerry, finally, your Teagasc Statement of Strategy 2021-2024. What would be a success for Dr. Jerry Boyle and Teagasc in these 3 years? What would you like to have achieved by 2024?
I suppose bottom line, you'd like to see the curve turning in respect of emissions. You'd like to see the wider public standing up and saying, well, actually farmers stood up to the plate and they're delivering in terms of commitment. That would be the absolute bottom line. I've no doubt about it, but if we work together, if the co-ops and the meat companies and the farming organisations, we ourselves get involved, of course, along with every farmer in the country, I think we can realise that aim.
Well, Jerry, listen, well done. Your Teagasc Statement of Strategy 2021-2024. There's lots of environmental challenges out there. You're very much aware of it, and I like the approach you have to it, both from the Sustainability Research Centre in Johnstown Castle and, of course, your signpost programme as well with farmers on the ground. Professor Jerry Boyle, Teagasc Director. Jerry, as always, thanks for taking our call and best of luck with this new strategy.
Thanks a million, Kieran. Anytime.
Well, over the past number of weeks, we've mentioned how all of our farmer markets and country markets right around the city and county have come back and reopened. Well, one such one is the Ardmore Farmers Market every Sunday from 11 until 3, just off the beach car park. And on the line, we're joined by the coordinator of the Ardmore Farmers Market, and that's Anthony O'Brien. Anthony, welcome to our programme.
How are you doing, Kieran?
Anthony, first of all, it's always a sign of summer, Ardmore Farmers Market off the beach car park. You're up and running, but I believe this year bigger and better than ever.
Yeah, it seems to got off to a great start now this year. We've a few extra stalls about 24 now, I think, in total. Slightly different layout to other years. It's bigger, because of COVID now. We're using more of the field, so we give people more chance to social distance and things. So we're bigger market, same amount of stalls, just a bigger layout, safer for everyone.
And as I said in the intro, you run from 11 till 3. It's an ideal time on a Sunday afternoon. But a huge array and a lot of local produce, from veg and strawberries right up, potatoes and whatever.
Yeah, we've everything from baked goods to veg to craft. So there's a good array of everything. We've about 6 or 7 food stalls, baking stalls, coffee, and then we kind of go into craft. We even have a woman making art with sea glass. So there's a bit of everything. It's a huge variety down the road. It's very interesting.
And of course, Ardmore, you're renowned for your carrots, for your veg and early potatoes, and James and Eileen O'Donnell it doesn't come better than that. And then you've Knockalara cheese as well and strawberries. But the Ardmore veg, and it's great to have such a local growers like James and Eileen there to have their product on offer.
Yeah, especially the veg, because it's a local market, and if you can't get your veg local, then you're at nothing. So yeah, we're delighted to have James and Eileen with us. Now they're just waiting for potatoes to come up. They're not quite ready yet, so I'd say another maybe 3 weeks we should have potatoes, or less maybe, hopefully. They'll be joining us very shortly now, but they're not there this week. But as soon as the potatoes are ready to dig, they'll be there.
Brilliant to hear. And of course, yourself and Mary Thrace, you really have coordinated, but your phones must have been hopping the last few weeks.
Yeah, they have literally been hopping between emails now and Facebook messages and people ringing us. A lot of messages, a lot of phone calls, a lot of organisation. But we're getting there, and it's fine. You know, it is at the stage now where we're nearly at full capacity, really, unless someone is doing something completely unique, really. You know.
That's a sign of how successful it is. And finally, just before we come in here, you mentioned a lot of confusion about the car boot sale, which isn't happening at the moment, but a lot of people were ringing you, I believe, wondering about the car boot sale, which is a separate entity from the farmers market in Ardmore.
Yes, it's a separate entity, right. The car boot for the moment won't be running, because at a point where it's so successful as well that you can't how many people turn up. Right. So in the interest of health and safety with COVID and things, we're not going to run it for the time being. We're going to wait and see how the country's faring out, and if we feel it's safe, we'll run it. But at the moment, we don't feel it would be appropriate. We have to keep the locals in mind when we do something like this, you know.
Well, listen, good call, Anthony, and indeed I'm sure the council and the Gardaí and everyone working, as you say, cooperation, because it's so important that people obey the steward, obey the bollards, obey the no parking signs, because it's a great entity to have in Ardmore every Sunday, and let's hope people will obey both the COVID protocol and of course also the safety regulations.
Yes, exactly, yeah.
Anthony, listen, well done to yourself and Mary Thrace. It's a fabulous sign that Ardmore Farmers Market open every Sunday from 11 till 3, right up to the end of September, you said to me before we come on air. So best of luck to you and all involved, and hope to get out there some Sunday afternoon. Thanks a million, Anthony, and best of luck.
Thank you very much, Kieran. Cheers.
Farmview with Kieran O'Connor on WLR.
With GlanbiaConnect.com. Thousands of products in the palm of your hand.
And you're welcome back to part 2 of Farmview. Now, before our next guest, let's have a look at some items from our farming calendar. Great, of course, to see livestock marts with ringside buyers back again this Saturday morning at Waffle Ross Mart in New Ross. Cattle sales from 9:30, calf sales from 10. And don't forget, Ross Mart also hold a special dairy sale on Fridays. Mondays, as always, Dungarvan Mart, calf sales every Monday morning from 10:30, with cattle starting from 11 o'clock every Monday morning. And remember, all sales are now online at livestocklive.com. Now, turning to our farmer markets and country markets, really buzz right across the city and county every week with an opportunity to purchase local farm fresh products that are on offer. This Saturday morning, Waterford Farmers Market in John Roberts Square. In Tramore, we've Tramore Farmers Market, Priest Road, every Saturday morning. While also Saturday morning, always a hive of activity in Stradbally for the Stradbally Farmers Market, running from 10 until 1. Sunday, Lismore Farmers Market back up and running, Castle Avenue, Lismore, every Sunday from 10 until 4. And also delighted to have Ardmore Farmers Market, as we have interviewed on this programme, opened and reopened this Sunday just off the beach car park, and every Sunday from 11 until 3. Thursday, Dungarvan Farmers Market, Grattan Square, always a hive of activity every Thursday morning from 9 until 2. While on Friday mornings we've Dungarvan Country Market, now of course at the Scouts Den in Abbeyside, every Friday from 9 until 1. While also in the city we've Waterford Farmers Market in St Olave's Hall, also running from 9 until 1 on Friday mornings.
Farmview with Kieran O'Connor on WLR.
With GlanbiaConnect.com. Ireland's biggest online farming shop and more.
Well, Bord Bia are to commence carbon footprinting of sheep farmers. The lamb carbon footprint, accredited by the Carbon Trust, will be calculated through a newly developed sustainability survey. And joining us on the line is a man very much to the forefront in this. He's Bord Bia Sheep Sector Manager, and that's Seamus McMenamin. Seamus, welcome to our programme.
Thanks, Kim.
The background to this, why do you feel important to do it now? And secondly, is it very much following what you've done in beef and dairy, or is this a completely separate approach?
Yeah, no, it's a very similar approach to what would have been done for the beef and the dairy. It's just being developed just to suit a sheep producer. There's going to be a survey just added on to their farm, their quality assured audit. They'll be sent it beforehand and they'll just be asked to complete it. So they have the option to either complete the survey online or by a paper format, or they can ring the Bord Bia help desk, do it over the phone. And the whole idea of it is just to allow us to calculate the carbon footprint of lamb production. And we already did for the beef and the dairy, and we just want to do it for the lamb, just because it sets us apart then when we're trying to compete on markets for Irish lamb. We're selling our lamb as sustainable, and it just gives us a way to prove that.
And how difficult is it, number one, to get farmers on board? Because obviously it's key to your whole area of the Origin Green, which has been a fantastic brand for Irish food internationally, but and sustainable assurance. Is it difficult to get the farmers on board on this, or you find it more difficult with sheep farmers than you have with the dairy and beef?
Well, at the minute there's about 12,000 quality assured sheep farms involved in the scheme, and those account for about 60% of the lamb that's passing through the major processing plants. So ideally we would like to increase that further by attracting more sheep producers into the scheme. There is growing demand for quality assured product just on the domestic and the export markets. The larger proportion of lamb that can qualify for the GA logo, the better. Just there's growing demand, particularly just for meat products and lamb that's produced through part of a quality assurance scheme and can show the sustainability of that product. So there is growing demand for it and growing asks from our customers, and it's just allow us to stay ahead of the curve and sort of set us apart from some of our competitors.
And as regards lamb exports, how badly has the sheep sector, the lamb exports, been affected by Brexit, number one, and number two, where your key markets is the rest of Europe, or is it further afield?
Europe is our biggest market for sheep meat. We send the large majority of our product to there, and there's within that obviously France is the main market in that. There's also other markets like Belgium, Germany, that are growing demand. There's also growing demand in Eastern Europe, but within the whole EU, is a large end of our exports, and our focus is there promote Irish lamb, as a product in its own right. And then outside that, then there's obviously some international markets like Switzerland, a standard example, where there's great demand for Irish lamb. And then we're continuing to try and get access into China and the US, where there's growing demand for lamb, and it would be great to have direct access to those markets.
And how difficult has it been to break into China and America? Are they pretty similar requirements for those areas, or do you feel it's something that you'll be able to crack?
It's work in progress. The access to China was getting very close just before COVID, so it's just a matter of pushing that on now whenever things get back to some sort of normality. And then the US is just a growing market for lamb, and there's quite a growing demand among the younger consumers in particular. Now at the minute there's quite tight global supplies of lamb, and that's worked to the advantage of the Irish sheep sector. We've seen some record prices over the last 12 months really. But there's just been tighter supplies. Sort of the major producing region of Australia and New Zealand have had less exports available. A lot of they are exporting is going to Asian markets as opposed to the EU, and that's led to a real tightening in supply on our key market, the EU. And then with Brexit as well, the UK are exporting a lot less lamb into the EU market, and that's created opportunities then for Irish exporters.
There, yeah, I could imagine. As regards the grass-based systems which we have here, is that a key part of the whole Origin Green, number one? And secondly, within the survey, what areas do you want farmers to cover, or what areas are covered for farmers who might be listening to us and getting them involved in this very important lamb carbon footprint survey?
Yeah, no, our production systems are very much on our grass base are very much used to promote Irish product, and it's great that we put such a high portion of grass in our diet, particularly for lamb, and it feeds into the very natural, wholesome image that Irish lamb have on the export market. In terms of what we're looking for as part of the sustainability survey, as I said, it's just an add-on to the existing quality assurance section. But what they're looking for is to take about 10 or 20 minutes to complete, and most of the information that a farmer would know off the top of his head anyway. So they're asking for information just about their enterprise, basically the size, the number of ewes they have, what systems they run. Do they run a lamb to store or a store to slaughter, and things like that. So then they look then at more detail in your house, your production system, the type of feed that you're feeding, the amount of concentrates, and then they'll look at your overall animal numbers and then your fertiliser. you're taking in. I suppose that the key aim of this is to just identify the carbon footprint, but both sustainability and efficiency go hand in hand. So when you complete this as part of your audit, you'll get a report afterwards that'll give you some
and point out the key areas that you need to address. Is that the basis of it?
Exactly, and key areas where you can improve. And I suppose, as I said, the sustainability and efficiency are tied hand in hand. So if they can point out or identify areas where you can improve, it works to the benefit of
for the industry,
reducing lowering its costs and also then reducing its carbon footprint as well.
Well, definitely the fact that it can capture the carbon emissions data, and you said earlier 12,000 quality assured sheep farmers. You're looking for more to come on board. It's simple enough. You can do it online at bordbia.ie. You can do it by phone through a help desk, and also you can actually do it from a paper and return by post. You can actually fill up a paper form and return. So you're really giving every option to farmers there to come on board, and I'm sure you're urging all sheep farmers listening to us and their families to come on board with this lamb carbon footprint survey.
Yeah, that's it. We're just looking to increase the number of farmers that are involved in the scheme overall, and just to increase the volume of quality assured lamb that we have to then service our export market, and just see if that gives us then the opportunity to sort of market our Irish lamb and create a market preference for us in key export markets.
Well, listen, Seamus McMenamin, Bord Bia Sheep Sector Manager, listen, well done. I think it's a great initiative. I'm delighted that so many are already on board. Obviously you want more to come on board. You've over 12,000 quality assured sheep farmers, but obviously you're on the programme this week to ask other farming families and sheep farmers to come on board with this survey. Seamus McMenamin, listen, thanks for taking our call, and best of luck with this whole piece. I think it's a very important area for Bord Bia to get involved in, and as Sheep Sector Manager, I'm sure it's key for the development of this great potential in that sheep industry going forward. Thanks for taking our call, Seamus.
No worries, thanks so much, Kieran.
And before I go on the racing front, what a week again for local Waterford connections cross-channel, with wins for Dungarvan jock Trevor Whelan at Salisbury, Dungarvan trainer Dennis Coakley at Lingfield, and Waterford trainer Robert Widger at Perth in Scotland. And back home, what a week again for that man. Knockeen Butlerstown trainer Henry de Bromid, and what a year he's having, with doubles at Tramore on Friday and also followed up with a double at Tramore on Saturday, and also wins at Listowel and indeed Roscommon for well-known Dungarvan owner Mustafa. But also at Tramore we wins for Taller trainer Ken Budds and the Connery Family Syndicate, ring owner breeder Mary O'Donnell, and the Dungarvan trainer Dermot O'Brien, who saddled a great winner for the Kilbrine Syndicate, who I believe is still celebrating. But special mention I want to give this week to young Ardmore jock John Gleeson. He managed to stay on board and steer his animal home following the saddle slipping in the Listowel bumper last weekend. So well done to young John, a young man with a bright future. So that's my lot for this week's programme. Once again, my thanks to Sean and Ollie for all their help in putting this week's programme together. So stay safe, keep up the protocol, and hopefully I'll have your company again same time next week.
Farmview with Kieran O'Connor on WLR.
With GlanbiaConnect.com. Thousands of products in the palm of your hand.